Hey, my name is Jenna. This is my Bible vlog project on the book of Hebrews, and we're going to be discussing what Hebrews is about and going over the different chapters. So to start us off, the book of Hebrews is introduced to us as a letter, and the letters of the book of Hebrews, also known as part of the epistles, which are used in other books as well, are given to what we assume are people who already know about the teachings of the Old Testament. And although it's not directly said, we kind of know that the book of Hebrews was not created just to inform the people about the events that happened, which contribute to the New Testament, but also to highlight Jesus. So what's the goal of Hebrews anyways? Well, in the book of Hebrews, it mainly talks about Jesus being the only way that we can have salvation, and that we are saved because of him. So who wrote the book of Hebrews? Well, that's a good question, because we don't really know, unfortunately. But we do know that this person, whoever wrote it, did have a connection to the apostles, who had direct eyewitness accounts of all the miracles performed, not only by Jesus, but also by themselves, and by other people who are in that group. So there are actually 13 chapters in Hebrews, and they all mainly talk about the goodness, the authority, and the salvation that Jesus brings to us who are undeserving of it, but who are provided it anyways. So starting with the first chapter of Hebrews, this is all about power. And in this chapter, it talks about times before where God would appoint these people who he chose and have them talk to other people in the group and deliver his messages. And these people were prophets. And we don't need them anymore. This is because Jesus, who is the Son of God, came down in the form of a man and was crucified on the cross, whose blood was shed for our sake, and who rose again on the third day. Jesus, after he was crucified and risen, was then finally counted as the author and creator of the universe. And his death was not just for our salvation, it was also to fulfill prophecy concerning him made by prophets before him, that addressed his inheritance of the kingdom of heaven. Because of this inheritance, he would sit on the right hand of majesty, making all things exist under submission of him. The book of Hebrews emphasizes this idea by mentioning how even the angels, who were higher than him in bodily form, would bow down and worship him. Chapter 2 of Hebrews was mainly all about authority. This would be Jesus' authority. So even though in bodily form he was made lower than angels, he would still be crowned King of Glory because of his sacrifice, which meant that everything in the earth, under it, and above it all belonged to Jesus. Chapter 3, however, was mainly about Jesus being of a higher authority than Moses. And everybody knew Moses, the guy who split the sea, who gave the 10 Commandments and made the laws, and the one who led them through the wilderness into the Promised Land. So Moses was a very high authority figure. To say Jesus was higher than him would be outrageous, right? Because Jesus died for our sins, he led us to salvation with his blood, which is something that Moses could not do on his own. Chapter 4 of Hebrew is all about resting. It talks about how even God rested, and how we should too. But the difference is, when we feel like the whole world is on our shoulders, we can't get enough rest. We can take comfort knowing that God knows our thoughts, and knows our feelings, and we can lean on him with all that we have. Hebrews chapter 5 and 6 have a similar theme of obedience and effort. Living as Christians, we are constantly putting our hope in God, but without the effort of our obedience, we wouldn't get to see God's works. Think about Jesus' inheritance of the kingdom of heaven. He gained it because he had patience and obeyed the will prepared before him every step of the way. Because of this, he did come into his kingdom. He fulfilled his life, conquered death, and rose into glory, as it is written. So stay strong. Moving on to chapter 7 and 8, these two go hand in hand together. This is all about Jesus being the high priest. So comparing these two, the high priest usually offers sin offerings or sacrifices yearly for their sins, while Jesus offered himself once and it was automatically greater, so he is the greatest sacrifice of all, and therefore the highest priest. Chapter 9 of Hebrews will be split into two parts. So the first part is Jesus being the ultimate tabernacle, or place of worship. This would mean that Jesus is the ultimate bridge between man and God. Jesus saves because of his blood, and only by his blood. And since by law you need a sacrifice by blood, Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice. Which leads us into our next point. Hebrews chapter 10 is about hope in heavenly things, and because we are made sanctified through Jesus' offering, we as people can wait on God and endure until we reach the heavenly places, so we can keep our hope in things above. Chapter 11 is all about faith. It talks about Abraham, Isaac, Moses, and even the wall of Jericho coming down, how all of these required faith in order to be carried out. These were all faithful servants of God, and they saw the promises afar off, but many of them never got to experience it. However, all of these people paved the way for Jesus to take us into salvation. Chapter 12 is all about endurance. We all know that finish line is right up ahead, and Jesus, the author of our life and our faith, teaches us to be patient in all things, just as Jesus was in his own life. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 26, it reads, "Wherefore, we receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace, whereby we may serve God acceptably, and with reverence and godly fear." Lastly, chapter 13 is all about brotherly love and praise of Jesus. This teaches us to be content, be hospitable, keep God's commands, and show support for each other. The main message I got out of here was to help God, others, and ourselves through our faith journeys. Hope you guys enjoyed. This was my Bible vlog on the book of Hebrews.